Hey guys, this is Robbie, Missouri Worm Supply. This is the last video from Arizona Worms Farm Business Conference. You're really going to want to watch this one. We have a small walkthrough with Zach showing different parts of the compound or the worm farm. But you're also going to get to see the big machinery and it running. Inside views of the tractor, while what a lot of stuff that normally people don't get to see. But that's at the VIN. The first part is about 5 minutes of just little clips of stuff that didn't make it to the original videos. And then the last part is all the big machinery. Y'all watch this one. Tell me what you think.
It's where my presentation is living. Okay, we're good at that.
Great job. This last time, you told me.
That was my introduction?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
And so,
I'll tell you what. I'll just wait until if I can get this up. I don't have any work doing. No, Zach, I can't top that.
6 degrees separation.
I do want to say though, before I get started, I want to congratulate everybody for being here for 2 reasons. So, congratulations if you come here and you get the information you need to go out and start this incredible business. Congratulations. Also, if you come here and decide this isn't for me, I also want to congratulate you on spending a few $100, having a good time, and then reclaiming the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours you might have spent doing something that maybe wasn't fruitful. So you're going to get a lot of, you've already gotten a ton of real information from Zach about how difficult this business can be. So I heard Zach give this presentation in 2017, 2016 at North Carolina State. And I came up and thanked him for it because it wasn't this rah-rah, everybody can do this, everybody should do this kind of thing. It was the real deal from somebody who has been running a business and knows how difficult it is. So thank you, Zach, for doing that year after year. You're saving people a lot of money and a lot of time. Okay, I'm just going to re-log in here. All right.
And I apologize, I also did not make an introduction earlier. Probably met her by now. This conference is joined by Birdie, my dog. She is well fed. Please do not feed her any snacks on the side. She's currently on a diet, so if we could all just refrain from feeding Birdie, that would be stellar. She is 12 years old. She is a black lab mix. Her hobbies include sunbathing, laying about. She is very sweet. If you want to kiss a very dirty dog, feel free. I'm also not sure if we gave warning about the Jack Russell Terriers. If you met them already, maybe Terry's already nipped at you. Please do not pet the Jack Russell Terriers. Bird is the pettable one. The Jack Russells are not for petting. They're working, they're busy. And then other animals on the farm. We've got the chickens. We've got chickens and goats. Has anyone seen the goats yet? Yeah. Little pygmy goats. Why do we have pygmy goats? A phenomenal question. A lot of people ask this. I'm not entirely sure, but I was told that we got the goats for weed control. They have not left that enclosure very much since I was told that they were going to go around and do weed control. We weren't very good at leash training the goats. They're very hard to maintain on 3 separate leash. Zach, any fun facts from the farm you want to share with us?
So here's a real story of the goats. I have 5 grandkids. 3 of them live here. Ben, my 5-year-old grandson, wanted a pig. And it turns out pigs get really big and really smelly, and they need friends, and it's just an arduous sort of a thing. So Ben and I had an agreement that if we got 3 goats, they would be his, and I didn't have to get a pig. So that's why we have 3 goats. So that's the...
Ben put any time into the goats.
Ben loves the goats.
Good.
So he's not here as much as I want him to. One of my goals, I have lots of goals for this farm, but one of my goals is to have all that bag on Amazon. It's $16 for 5 pounds, so $3 a pound.
So we came down. When did you buy it? 2 weeks ago. Okay. She wanted to $25,000 for that. Everybody's a coach.
Crazy, you're never going to get 75,000. I'll give you 6 flip-flops. So she sold it to a developer, who then sold it to another developer, who then sold it to somebody else for $280,000. So now you can't afford it. Yep. Okay. Basic composting. So how many of you are making compost now? Are in the compost business? Well, shit, this is easy. We do small batch composting in these babies. I use hardware cloth, or I use this. I use this to demonstrate for my customers, because this is called a Geo Compost. Home Depot sells this for about $25. It makes a 3-foot circle if you layer greens and browns. It has enough critical mass that it'll heat up. And so what we teach people to do is to layer greens and browns in there until it's at least this high, because you need that critical mass for it to heat up. Little extra greens if you're having trouble getting it hot, and then just wet it. It'll heat up, leave it until it cools down. Usually that's 2 or 3 weeks. This comes off, set it right here, take a pitchfork and turn it 1 time back into the circle, wet it, it'll heat up. When it cools, it's ready to use. Take it off and either put it back there, start over, and pile it on the ground, or put the thing around there and turn it 1 more time. So we like to tell people, get 3 barrels, 2 turns. Load it, turn it 1 time, turn it a 2nd time, and let it then finish from there. I use this for my teas because I use as many different inputs as I possibly can for small batch composting. So again, this first one, what you're going to see on top there is goat poop, I think. Little pellets. Yeah.
Goat, yep.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is when we make our teas, I want as diverse a set of microbes as I can possibly get. Different inputs give me different microbes, and so I'll use, right now I have 5 batches of small batch compost going, and I'll use a little bit from each when I make the tea. Okay? This is how we teach our customers how to do composting. Those crank things they're a waste of money. They just don't work. You can't try. I mean, maybe they work in Wisconsin or Arkansas. Or
they don't work. The other garbage here.
I've never found one to work.
I turned mine into a flavor.
This works, right? This works.
Zach, what do you think about Johnson Sewer or any kind of aerated compost?
I am a giant fan. I think that there are some, on a large scale, I think there's some interesting challenges of making that all work properly. But if I were in the cattle business, I'd be trapping methane and bottling it and selling it for sure.
So we do compost like this and then extract off of this. And I'm curious because you say you use this in your teas instead of your
In addition
to.
to. So the first scoop.
So you want both vermicompost and this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a gallon. So when I'm making 100 gallons of tea, I'll send you our recipe exactly, but I put about a gallon of worm castings in first. It's my base. And then I add a little bit of compost from our small batch areas, and I add mulch from a mulch pile that we're letting compost that develops fungal hyphae. So I have a specific growing area for fungal hyphae because it's the most challenging thing to get in the teas. Bacteria is pretty easy. The bigger stuff is harder.
Did you spray, I know because on some of those piles when you're separating, do you spray teas on that mulch pile or you just let it build that fungal community on its own?
Here, on a small scale, I'm adding tea every single week.
Okay.
There, on the big scale, we have debates back and forth. My issue, so our compost for us, we turn it 3 or 4 times. We'll go through heat cycles, and I'll explain those heat cycles when we go out there. It's not special. It's what every good composter does. But when we get to our final heat cycle, we let it cure. And that curing process is basically the bacteria converting the nitrogen into some flavor of ammonia. Their multiplication is what heats it up. When they stop multiplying as much, it means that they've consumed the organic matter. They've moved it from a 30-to-1. So we started at a CN ratio of 30-to-1. We want to be down at 8-to-1 when we're done. That process takes me 5 months, and you can see from my footprint, I just don't have the space to make as much compost as I want to make. If I could shrink that curing process by a month or two, it would really help my bottom line. We go back and forth as to whether or not if we add teas, we could accelerate that process. In our small tests, we move it by a week or two, but not a month or two. In a week or two, it's just not worth the effort to do it. But if I could get to where it was a month or two, it might.
How long do you cure right now?
5 months.
Have you tried static aerate compost?
Yeah, so static aerated. So I've got a pile of static aerated compost out front that I'll show you. In Arizona, it's awful. It just dries it out. It becomes hydrophobic. And my customers can't wet it.
Is that the big pile of compost we see at these yards?
Yeah.
Where they just pile it up and they go in and turn it with
air
a big...
in. Well, they blow air into
Okay,
it,
yeah.
and that air speeds the decomposition.
Right.
It shifts the CN ratio.
Right.
So the stuff that comes out, and I've got a pile here. After this, we'll go touch it. It definitely shifts the CN ratio, but it also blows all the air out of it, and it kills all the microbes. And so when you re-wet it, it heats up. So we won't sell it to customers to use for raised beds. It's great if you want to add organic matter to your tree. It's a great product, and it's much less expensive because they can make it in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So for us, for where you are, if you live in a humid, moist place that gets a lot of rain, an aerated static pile might be the perfect answer.
I have 4 piles going right now, but I did want to hear, because not many people who are doing it are in worm compost.
Right.
And I'm wondering, because we had just a tough time with the curing stage and when to feed them, because it just got too hot and the worms, they couldn't handle it.
Right.
And I'm wondering, like you said, when you reintroduced water, which we needed to,
It heats up.
that makes a lot of sense.
It heats up because the microbes, you haven't that aeration process. It dries it out, and you don't get the same bacterial activity that you have in a wet environment. So you heat it up, and the heat is really bad for the obviously the worms
we were
are
getting hot.
yeah, and it's so that's why we cure it, get it to ambient temperature. I usually bring it in a couple of degrees above ambient temperature and force the cooling here under the shade.
In a small batch, what I'm trying to do, because I want to just pre-compost,
Yeah.
because I got winter to deal with.
Yep.
I'm trying to humidify the air that I'm pumping through it.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect yet, but I'm trying to get the air inside so it doesn't dry out, because I have no humidity, just like you have no humidity.
Yeah, the guys who make our aerated static pile compost for us add no water to the process. They add some food waste, which they claim wets it, but they're just blowing. In Arizona, on an average day, our humidity is single digits.
Yeah, mine too.
So think about that. Colorado for sure. Four Corners for sure. Think about what that does to you. You're just blowing. It's like putting in a dryer.
Yeah. I'm in Florida, and it works great.
Yeah, Florida would be great.
The middle of those piles are
wet. Yeah, any of those
And that's the only
Gulf
advantage
Coast
that
areas.
Johnson Sioux has, is because with his open points, you can get the moisture down into it.
Yeah.
But that's another long process. Johnson Sioux takes a year.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I'll say this again and again and again. What you see here is what works here. This will not work 3 blocks from here. It's just slightly different. Let's go down and.
Hey guys, if you like what you're seeing, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell.
To Luis Valenzuela. Luis is our compost master. He owns the recipe. He owns making sure that the wedges are at the right moisture level. I promised him he wouldn't have to talk, but if you guys have questions, I'm sure
Please don't have any questions.
he'll answer those questions. When Luis turned the first shovel of dirt on this farm. So he built the first buildings. He's been with me the whole way. When we started, I bought a John Deere 4040, a 1984 tractor with about 25 horsepower, and I bought a Stittler compost turner from 1972. And the wedges had to be smaller, but that thing had, I don't know, 10 forward gears, 1 reverse gear, and nothing else on it. and it worked great. It really, it worked. And the two wonderful things about it was there wasn't a single computer on the whole thing. If something broke, you popped it off and put a new one on, and it ran like crazy. So that thing, 40 years old, was just a perfect workhouse for us. So when I needed to get a bigger version, I just bought the bigger version of both of those machines. I have not researched compost turners. So those of you that have different ones, or you have self-propelling turners, there's a lot of reasons why those are wonderful. I picked this one because I had a 40-year-old one that worked flawlessly. And I decided if that 40-year-old one that worked flawlessly was good enough before, it would be good enough for the next one. That machine, that turner, when I bought it, was about $25,000. We bought the tractor to pull the turner, because we needed to go up, we needed to make more compost. I called John Deere and I said, I want to order a new tractor. And they said, it's 18 months and we won't quote you a price. You have to sign to buy the machine, you got to give us a couple of $1,000, and we'll tell you how much it is when we get it built in 18 months. Well, I didn't have time, so we bought this in April-ish. Minnesota had no snow that year. So this came from the Minnesota Department of Transportation. They bought a bunch of tractors to use to move snow, and they didn't have any snow, so they sold off a couple of surplus tractors, and so we were able to get this for $160,000. This is the only machine on the farm that Luis won't let me run. It's, and that's a fact. It's like sitting in an airplane. It's got a cockpit full of computers and machines and stuff like that. The old one I could put my grandson on and he could drive. This thing is a little more complicated. The turner turns from the bottom up, and I'm gonna ask Luis to just turn some and then have him come back over here and we'll chat about it. Okay?
Is there a water tank on the turner? Or
No, we don't. No, we wet it with the water truck, 2,000-gallon water truck.
It is equipped. The turner has a spray capability.
But that turner in its football field to make a turn, and with the water, if you add the water tank, you'll need twice of that. So it's.
They buy the rest. Those customers spend money. So I can get those people to come in, and I can get them to stay. I appreciate the compliments. But it's not special. I mean, I'm proud of it. I'm not. So not. It's not that we don't have great people, but it's not special. What it is it's telling people what they want to know, how they want to do it, and it works. Question, sir.
Yeah. So to clarify, at the very beginning of your teaching, you were the person who gave those presentations, or did you?
No more. No. Stop asking me. Hey, stop it. No more. Do you know how you tell the difference between the head of a worm and the tail of a worm? Tell its belly and see which end laughs. That's what I do for a living. That's my job.
That joke from a 5-year-old, and I now tell it to kindergarten classes, and they all love it.
Tomorrow I'm going to tell you my favorite joke to tell my grandkids. My wife hates this joke. Tomorrow. I think many of you have watched way too many hours of Steve Churchill on YouTube. I know I have. I go down that rabbit hole.
It was working like a regular rototiller then.
Yeah, kind of.
All right.
Yeah. See, you want to be like all the way close to the ground. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that way you're moving everything. See that?
Yep.
Right to the windshield, and boom, that's another $500 right there. but yeah, technically you wanted to have a water tank and be injecting water at the same time, but like I said, it's
too much.
It's way too.
Yeah, luckily I live here in Missouri, so we don't have to add too much water.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always wet.
Yeah. Yeah, we had I think it was last year, we had a guy from Oregon, I think it was. Well, I'm like, dude, you rain over there like 367 days a year. And you know, what the hell?
Yeah.
And here we dry like all the time.
Yeah, some of our beds that when we compost, we'll have to go out there and I'll put covers over them.
Because
they just start washing away.
Yeah.
They won't get hot or you lose all your temperature.
Yeah. See, like this one right now, our pros were showing 165, and it's been a month old. This window right here. So this is the second turn. So the third cycle, it'll be technically just let it sit, you know, keep an eye on it and keeping it moist.